Woo! What a Saturday night of racing with Daytona. Harrison Burton, again, sitting 34th in points.
You want to give something in the 40s.
I do.
We're so used to 43 drivers.
That's how far back he came, it seems, to get that race win. Kyle Busch leading, and then Harrison Burton gets the win. Kyle Busch right now, well, again, we'll get into this. But my point is this. There's a lot of discussion, and it started when Austin Dillon took out Joey Logano, where Austin Dillon was sitting in the 32nd spot. Mm-hmm. He took out Joey Logano, and then he was into the playoffs. Well, okay, we know what happened with that.
At Richmond,
Austin Dillon is no longer in the playoffs. He has the win, but he was taken out of the playoffs with that. Now, Harrison Burton, sitting in the 34th spot, is in the playoffs, taking the spot of some other very popular drivers, Crasher.
And some arguably other more qualified, well, I use air quotes with that, qualified drivers for the playoff system. I'm not taking anything away from Harrison Burton. This win was massive. He did earn it. And this is a guy that's sitting on the outside looking in for a ride, a seat in general for 2025. But if the discussion that came about, one of the many discussions that came about from Austin Dillon's win in Richmond is, hey, should we allow somebody that's in the 30s in the points to be able to win their way into the playoffs? You know, somebody that's dabbling in the 30s probably isn't playoff caliber. Well, if we're going to have that discussion with Austin Dillon, his way into a win was different than what Harrison Burton did on Saturday night at Daytona. But the conversation is the same. It's a driver dabbling in the 30s, maybe not playoff caliber or playoff worthy, but they're winning and therefore getting themselves into the playoffs, arguably taking a spot away from someone who should be there. Again, air quotes, should be there instead.
Statman, Harrison Burton playing by the rules. That's the track that NASCAR laid for drivers to get into the playoffs. How do we try and fix it? Do they try and fix it? Do we live with it?
I think they're going to try and fix it next year. I think they should try and fix it next year. I agree 150% on what Crash just said. I don't know. I understand why they want to win your way into the championship because you're always trying throughout the regular season. But to jump over 25 guys to get into the playoffs, I don't think is fair. I don't think it's fair as some place you go in the summer, but I don't think it's right, and I don't think they should. What Crash said,
Richie, but these are the rules, and they're playing by the rules. If you take away wins from guys that are in the 20s and 30s positions in NASCAR going into these last couple of playoff races, what's their incentive to win the race other than just to win the damn race?
Yeah, I actually looked this up before the show because I was curious when this rule was changed, because there used to be a top 30 in points rule in order to make the playoffs if you won. It changed prior to 2023. So this is, yeah, I did not realize that they got rid of it prior to 2023 season. So think of it this way. Harrison Burton would not be in the playoffs if he won this race back in 2022, right? Several years ago back, even Justin Haley, you remember Justin Haley? He won the race at the July 4th race at Daytona, and he didn't make the playoffs back then, which was probably one of the contributing factors to changing it in the first place. But here's the thing. People weren't winning outside of the top 30 in points prior. So I don't have a problem with them changing the rule at all. If you win, you deserve to be in the playoffs. I'm sorry. If you go out and you win a race and you beat the best drivers in the world, you're in the playoffs. You're proving to me that you're one of the top 16 drivers in the sport. Because you know what? Kyle Busch hasn't won a race this year. Martin Truex Jr. hasn't won a race this year. Those are two Hall of Famers. And Harrison Burton outright beat those two on one of the toughest tracks to win a race. Crazy? Yes, but tough as heck. And Harrison Burton proved that he deserves to be in the playoffs. And if you win a race, you're in the top 16. You're in the playoffs. Easy answer for me.
But this is the example of why it's difficult, because half the field didn't finish the race. They got crashed out. So he didn't beat everybody to earn his way in. Like I say all the time, he was in first place when the race ended. There were some very top cars that were on the sidelines for various and sundry reasons. So it's, a popular win, but I don't think that I don't think he really deserves to be in there. I mean,
To your point, Simon, I will give you this. He was, like you said, he was 34th in points going in. You know how many full-time drivers there are? There's 34. He was literally dead last in full-time driver points.
Oh.
Yeah, and he was fired because of it. He didn't have a ride for next year. But like I said, he was in first place when the race ended. So in theory, he won, but he beat some, just by surviving, he beat some incredible cars. And I just don't think that you should be able to jump over, 15, 20 cars just because you won a race.
All right. Well, let me play devil's advocate here, Freak Nation. Statman, we've seen it before where the heavyweight champion is an overall favorite. However, that tomato can lands a lucky punch and takes down the heavyweight champion, and that tomato can becomes a heavyweight champion.
Like Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson. Yeah, I understand that. But Buster Douglas didn't beat 5 or 6. Mike Tyson was there, and he had a chance to be ready to fight. In Daytona, there were 15 or 20 cars that were either not there or weren't ready to compete at the end of the race. So he didn't beat the best of the field. He beat the guys who survived. And I just don't see luck shouldn't play a part in a championship for a series that wants to be considered world class.
But then again, we're at the beginning of the NFL season. We've seen teams go from a wild card all the way to the Super Bowl, and that's arguably luck that's at play there. So,
but
it's
that's
tough.
Wild card. In order to be a wild card, they have to win 2/3 of their events, 2/3 of their games.
Okay, valid.
To be a wild card. So they are good. They may not be as good as the best, but they're good enough to be there and to be considered.
Okay, so using the NFL analogy, should NASCAR come up with a wild card system in which, yes, you've got your top 16 in points, but then 16 to 26 is the wild card. If you win and you're in that buffer, that window, cool, you're on into the playoffs. But if you're outside of the 26, then no. Should they go back to that?
I think that they should go back to if you're outside the 26 or the 30, that, if you win, cool, but you don't qualify for the playoffs because you've demonstrated all year that everybody else is better than you. And because of some circumstance, you win. I don't think that you should be considered one of the top 16.
Harrison Burton talking about the battle with Kyle Busch for that final lap.
And I was thinking, trying to put myself in his shoes of what is he thinking? What is he trying to do to pass me? Where is his help with Christopher and all that? And once I made the block and pulled across his nose and kind of took all his energy by making a late block to where I obviously almost crashed, but that was what I needed to do to kind of take the energy away from him. Then I thought I had kind of done it, but until then I had I wasn't feeling comfortable out there. That's for sure.
Okay, well, hold on. That's a whole nother topic of conversation that hit our text thread last night. Of course, Kenny and I are out camping. We'll get to that story later and how we actually saw this race with no cell service. But you brought that up, Statman. Harrison Burton just said something about blocking. He blocked Kyle Busch in order to secure this win at Daytona. We've seen it more often than not in which blocking is dangerous.
Okay, well, let's save that conversation. We've got about 45 seconds, then we've got a break. That's exactly where I was going to go with that. I said Harrison Burton teed it up perfectly for Statman's concern regarding blocking in NASCAR and motorsports. We'll hit that. To alleviate this conversation, is it also part of the scheduling that NASCAR needs to do is put driver tracks towards the tail end of these races leading into the play? You've got Talladega next year in the playoffs. Imagine the conversation we're going to have.
Talladega's in the playoffs this year.
Okay. Yeah, right. You're right. Exactly. Sorry about that.
It's coming up
Holy
in
smokes.
a month and a half.
I'm getting confused here. My God. Blocking, alleviating Daytona from the picture if it gets somebody. I'm discombobulated here. Going to take a break. Thank you, Lucas Oil, for making this thing possible. And Freak Nation, do yourself a favor. Go to lucasoil.com. Check out their website and where you can pick up Lucas Oil products, your motorcycle, your truck, your sports car, and even your speedboat. Lucas Oil has the products. Keep all of them on the road or on the lake, fat and happy. What I was getting at that last segment, I knew there was some type of change with Talladega allegedly for the 2025 schedule. What was that, Richie?
Yeah, shout out to Glenn. Right. For checking us on it. He said that Talladega is going to be in the round of 8 next year, so it is a qualifying race, allegedly. Schedule's not officially out yet. Allegedly is going to be a qualifying race to make it into the championship 4.
Got it. We'll get to that. We'll get into blocking in NASCAR. More from Harrison Burton, your winner from Saturday night in Daytona, sitting 34. What was that again, Richie? He was literally the 34th driver.
He was 34th in points, which is dead last among the full-time drivers in the NASCAR Cup Series.
Oh my gosh. Steve Phelps.
He's also like 1 and 100 plus. This was his first Cup win in 3 years of being in the Cup Series.
Wow.
So yeah, is that a championship? Let's say he gets lucky and wins a couple of races and gets to the Final 4 and he could possibly be a champion. I just don't see that as what NASCAR wants for their championship driver.
No,
they don't. NASCAR's in a position where they have to, again, do something. They have to figure out this whole playoff format and fine tune the gray details around it in order to establish a well-respected way of determining a champion.
Crasher, can we move pit news and notes to 45 past the hour?
Absolutely.
Can we do that? Because I like where this conversation is going, Freak Nation. Statman brought up a good point, but I want to see. Hey, I want to see what's in Statman's right hand, because what the hell are you drinking, man? Really? I mean, nothing screams championship like the Wood brothers and Harrison Burton, right?
Trevor Bayne and the Daytona 500 win.
Yes,
they win races.
Well, how many races have the Wood brothers won in the Cup Series? And I know, Richie, you're going to get our crack staff on this.
It's 100.
This was their 100.
Hold on. How many Cup races have the Wood brothers won in our 24 years of doing SpeedFreaks?
Not many.
We can name 2 right now: Harrison Burton and Trevor Bayne. Right?
Wasn't there an Eric Jones win in there?
We can name Joe Gibbs. We can name hell. I can name Chip Ganassi. Maybe.
I think Kyle gave.
Montoya?
Yeah.
What's the emoji, Suave, for you residential millennials, of someone with the emoji on our phones with the hand on their forehead?
Face palm.
Yeah, face palm. That is Steve Phelps. After that Harrison Burton win, it's like, oh man,
not again.
You can't tell me that Steve Phelps and every NASCAR executive are going, come on, Kyle, come on, Kyle, come on, Kyle.
Make it legitimate for us.
No, Harrison Burton. Look, how do you spell Harrison? What? Oh, it's Chip. That's Chip Burton's son. To doing our broadcast. I mean, that was a beautiful moment. Yes.
And Harrison's a great kid.
Yes.
But we're talking playoffs on a major American sporting series. This doesn't look good. This just doesn't.
Harrison Burton, even in his post-race interview, said, I was fired from the team.
There's my
yes.
Make it make sense. It doesn't.
So here's my story. Read it, Swabby.
This is from Lily on YouTube watching us live. Says he doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs regardless how feel good a story it is.
So over the weekend, Crasher and I are spending, there's our boy, Art Man.
I think there's one more than me.
Hi, Art.
Sounds like what I used to
He's
say.
Not wrong.
What I used to say about Mark Martin. Mark Martin's got as many NASCAR Cup Series championships as I do. Love Mark Martin. Love you. Okay. So Crasher and I were camping about 7,000 feet up north of Phoenix, just outside of Jerome, Arizona. And we had 0 cell service in our camping area. Yet, our car was Sirius XM, which, by the way, we were on Freak Nation. We were able to listen to the race. And it's
Part of it.
Well, we were too busy we weren't imbibing yet. We were listening to the race and got into the car and thought, we got to find cell service. There's 20 laps here. We got to go find cell service. We got to watch this damn thing, man.
Well, I listened to the end of stage 2 and I'm like, all right, this is shaping up to be good. We got some big names out, but you know what? We still have some big names who are desperate for a win. Kyle Busch being one of them. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be a great final stage. Let's go back to the campfire, chill for a second. And then all of a sudden time went by and I'm like, whoa, where's the race? And you're right. It was about 20 laps to go. We're like, get on social media.
We're in the middle of this campsite, man. All these people around and we're screaming. And Henley, our daughter's going, where you going? I gave him a walkie-talkie so we could talk back at camp. Because we had to go to this. I mean, it was, if there was ever a deliverance banjo music happening where we parked this car, I mean, I made sure that we were protected, parked on the side of the road, this dirt road, with 2 people sitting in the front seat and they're on their phones watching the race.
And not paying attention to the boogeyman in the woods. Yeah.
Oh, well, truth be told, I was going to go by myself because I'm like, I got to make sure I got to do some stuff with Kyle Busch and blah, blah. And Kenny's like, I'm going to drive you.
Yes.
You're not going by yourself.
Stat man, listen. To that point, I kept my foot on the brake lights. So behind us, at least the red lights would illuminate what's behind me. And I could keep looking in the rearview mirror if somebody was going to sneak up and break into the damn car as we're watching Harrison Burton win the damn cup race.
That was only a half a lap.
I've been to Jerome. It's a old ghost town from the copper mines. I know about Jerome, and that's not a place you want to be in the dark.
Hey, Jerome would have been a plush palace considered where we were, Stat Man. And these were dirt freaking roads and barbed wire that was probably 75, 150 years old and trees for freaking days, man.
It was gorgeous, though.
But how do you know it was dark as hell?
Well, because we went up there earlier in the day to find this cell service area. We scouted it. We were going to get cell service tonight. We got to at least watch the last 20 laps.
The only time I would have done something like that is if the freaking U.S. men's team were in the World Cup finals. I would have made sure I was going to go. I just remember Henley Arturo.
Wait, no.
What?
If the U.S. men's soccer team is in the World Cup finals, there is no way we're even going camping. Yeah. There's no way we are leaving our house.
Kenny's would sell the house to be at the game.
He would. Sorry, Henley, you thought you were going to college, and not anymore. Yeah. The men are in the finals.
You think the men's team will ever make the World Cup finals in my lifetime?
Yeah, well, we got to start with them making the tournament first.
Well, that's how you do it, Stat Man. You host the damn thing to where the hosts automatically get in.
And that's coming up 4 years.
Yeah, see, just like Harrison Burton, they host the thing, they get in, and they run the table.
Okay, so will they make changes in the offseason? I think they have to.
They have to. Mm-hmm. They have to. They cannot allow, no matter how good, like the people have been saying in our text messages, no matter how good this feel-good story is, you cannot determine a championship in a major sporting series because somebody lucked into a race where half the field was gone and several of the major players their cars were either damaged. I mean, look at Darrell Wallace. He got into the second to the last crash and was 25th. They had another crash and suddenly he's running 8th and with a damaged car. That's
a good point.
Yeah, I mean, he was leading when the race ended. And, that's who knows if he'd have been leading in another lap.
Keselowski had a drive-through, and by the end of the race,
he was back up there.
He was in the top 10.
That's
right. But there was so many cars were damaged and weren't at 100%. Like, imagine if the Charlotte Hornets last year, they win a game, and suddenly they qualify to get into the postseason tournament in the NFL. It's the same thing. He's 1 in 100 in his career, and he's playing for running for the championship now.